Hi guys, I've had to re-record this opening because the sound on it went completely out of sync, so hopefully this will work a lot better. We're going to be looking at the Goon RDA today by 528 Custom Vapes in collaboration with Blue Eyed Goon 83. Without further ado, we'll go down, have a look, do a build, and then we'll come back and I'll give you my thoughts. See you in a bit. Hi guys, welcome down to the table here. We've got the velvet bag that the 528 Customs Goon RDA comes in. Little drawstring bag, very cool, with the silver stitching which denotes it's a stainless steel one. Right, so we'll just grab the RTA out, put that there. You also get a little bag with some spare O-rings for the RDA itself, and 4 extra screws for the bridge posts, which we'll look at in a moment. Right, just pop that to one side. Okay, so here we have the Goon RDA. As you can see, got this is a collaboration between 528 Customs and the Blue Eyed Goon. Who's an Instagram builder. I believe he's the guy who invented the alien coil. So it's pretty cool, and he obviously has collaborated with these guys to come up with what I think you'll probably agree is quite a cool looking RDA. As you can see, the engraving is pretty deep, it's nicely etched into there, and then on the top we've got 528 Custom Vapes, which is very nice, again nice and deeply engraved. On the bottom there, we've got the negative pin screw. So the both the posts are detachable on this, so that you can replace the bridge posts if you wish. You've got the name again, 528 Custom Vapes, and then on there's my serial number, which is reasonably high. Got a copper 510 pin. It's not particularly adjustable because obviously that connects into the positive bridge, which we'll see in a moment, but it does stick out plenty far enough, as you can see there. If I put my thumb behind it, there's a good mil and a half of 510 pins sticking out there, and that's copper. Okay. Drip tip is a proprietary drip tip. It's a ½ inch wide. It's the same, I've been told that it's like a friction fit. You've got an O-ring on the inside of the top cap here, and apparently this is the same exact same size as the drip tips that you can get for the Kennedy and the Kennedy 24. So if you have any of those kind of drip tips, those will fit in here, or if you want to buy one of the customized drip tips that are available these days, there's loads of people making drip tips for Kennedys, they will fit in here. Okay, so let's strip this down a bit. Probably best if I put it on something to take the dropsies. Screw it onto here, just take the top cap off. Screw it off again. Alright. Start with the top cap first, we'll come to the build deck in a moment. As you can see, you've got 3 large air holes here. Now, I'm not exactly sure what the diameter is on those, but they look about 3 mil. You've got 3 on one side, 3 on the other. The top cap has 3 lots of air holes in it, so you've got dual air holes where you've got the 3 facing one another on each side, and then one side where there's just 3 one side and it's blank on the other side. So you can actually set this up in single coil and dual coil mode. All the pieces on this are extremely well machined. There's no kind of sharp edges, no burrs, nothing like that. It's good, solid, nice, thick stainless steel on this, and it all fits together really well. The O-rings are brilliant, and when you actually got this closed down, you can obviously, helps you put it on the right way round, John. you can, as you can see, you can just turn the top of the top cap there, and you can close off or open up as much of the airflow as you wish. So there we go, and we have the top cap. Here we have the build deck. This is a gold plated build deck. These are called bridge posts. You've got your let's just take this to point at. You've got your positive bridge here, which goes down and has a PEK insulator in the bottom there, and that runs up the side of the build deck. There were some people asking me if there was any chance of this touching the outer wall of the build deck, and the PEK and PEK. Apparently it's harder wearing than PEK. The PEK insulator runs all the way up the side of the build deck there, and so it sorts you out with any idea of any kind of shorts or anything like that. And that runs across the bottom of the build deck, and then as you can see, you may be able to see just in the bottom there's that little copper circle. That's where the 510 pin comes up and connects through to there. So that's what holds this bridge post in place. And then on this side you've got your negative, which again is screwed in through the bottom there. You've got two screws on each side, and this is where it gets interesting. So we'll just open these up. As you can see, these screws do actually unscrew quite a sizable way, which is pretty damn good in my opinion, because once you've got them unscrewed, if I tip that and then hold it like that, you can see you can get underneath those bridge posts, those bridge plates for the posts. You can get huge thick wire through there. They've got like a slightly chamfered edge here, so basically when you're putting your coils in, you can just push your coil against that, and with the screws loosened they'll just pop up and out of the way, which makes building just an absolute joy. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually put this on my 5-to-1 tab from Vaper, and we're going to just put in a little build. Now I've got some quite big Claptons that I made myself, and what I'll do is, there these here, as you can see, they're fused Clapton, 24 gauge dual core Claptoned with 36 gauge all N80 nichrome. 7 wraps on a 4mm diameter bit. Because this is such a huge deck, as you can see, you can fit these kind of coils in here no problem at all, and still have bags of room for wicking. So what I'll do is I'm just going to pause the recording for just a second, and then we'll come back and I'll start building. So see you in a moment. Okay, welcome back again. Sorry about that. I had somebody trying to ring me. So we've got our my fused Claptons here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I actually build this. So I'm going to try and keep it in camera as much as possible, but obviously if you can bear with me, because I don't do this very often, and we may get into run into a few little troubles. So what we're doing is I'm basically just I put this on a rod because it makes life a little bit easier, and I'm just literally just pushing these leads against the chamfered edge, and as you can see they just popped right up like that, no problem at all, and the leads are now in. So what I'm going to do now, and this seems a bit strange, a bit counterintuitive maybe, but what I'm actually going to do now is I'm actually going to place these coils where I want them, kind of where I can see them going, and then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start to tighten these down, getting them into place. So what you do with these, because you've got 4 screws, is just tighten down sort of like a little bit on each one at a time, so that you get in an even pressure going down across those flat plates to get your coils nicely trapped. So what we're doing in fact is just making sure that we've got everything that we need done so that we've got these nicely in position. So I'm just going to keep going with the, would help if it wasn't spinning on the 510 connection. Right, so as you can see, I've got my coil in place there, and I'm just going to push it down and forward a little just to make sure I know that it's going to fit inside that. Okay, so we're probably going to take off a bit of that slack with the take the pin out now. And what I'm going to do is just going to keep hold of the wire and cut it nice and close to the build deck as possible. If you can see that, obviously my fingers are in the way. I'm just trying to make sure that this wire doesn't go flying off anywhere, because I don't know if you've ever used Claptons or fused Claptons, but it's really thick wire and it is a bugger. If it flies off, it can get you in the face and it really does hurt. And God forbid you got it in your eye. So I'm just cutting these. If it'll cut, there we go. Right, so we've now got that coil is good to go. So now, as I said, this is the counterintuitive bit. I'm actually going to take that off. I'm going to take that out all together. Loosen off these 4 screws again. I'm conscious I've got my fingers in the way of everything. Okay, and then I keep knocking the camera. Sorry about that. Like I said, don't do this very often, so bear with me. I'm just going to stick the little one of the building rods from a Core Master, or I think that's the actual Geek weight one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it round so that I've got my side that I'm going to put this one in on. And what we're going to do is going to do the same thing, exactly the same again. And this time we're going to make sure that we're nice and close, and screwing down again, nice and even. Somebody's texting me. Felt my phone go off in my pocket then, sorry about that if you heard the buzzing. So we just nice and evenly screwing down these four screws just to make sure that we've got a nice good connection and that we're not cranking down too much in one spot, so that we can get a nice connection between the plates and the coil. So as you can see, that one's a little bit high, but that's not a problem. What we're going to do is just again keeping hold of the end of the wire and the bin and the other end of the wire. Especially these bits of wire are a bugger if you get them in your feet, and obviously if you've got pets like I do, I've got cats, you don't really want shards of sharp wire kicking about on the floor for them to tread on, because it hurts. You know, it'll hurt them, won't do them an awful lot of good at all. So what we're going to do is just going to put that bar through there. I've got the other one on this bar here. So what I'm going to do now is loosen this off again, and you'll be able to see that this will just rest in there. There's no major issues with it falling out or anything like that. And what we do is just loosen off nicely, get all the plates nice and ready to receive the other coil, which, as you can see, it's just moved a little bit. So I'm just going to try. Actually, I might just try and snip a bit more off of the ends of this one. That went flying. Bit difficult with the small bits to keep in track of them, but that went across my desk somewhere, so hopefully that won't be damaging the cats at any point. Okay, so got those nicely trimmed, and we're going to bring into play the other coil, which is here. And I'm just going to do exactly the same as I did before and just push this into, trying to do this and keep it on camera sort of doing it long distances, if you will. Just trying to get it so that it's all in the right place. So I'm going to do that. Okay, and now what we do is again do the whole twisty thing. Sing, you know, a little bit at a time on each. Sorry if I keep knocking the camera. It's all a little bit close. Just, you know, a few turns on each one as you're going along. Start from one end, keep working your way along till you get it nice and in place and nice and firm, and then we can frig about with the coils afterwards. One's right down. Right, I'm getting a little bit of two. Try a bigger headed screwdriver, John. That might help. That's better. Getting a better purchase on the heads of those screws now. Just, you know, obviously want to make sure that we're getting no kind of missed contacts here at all. And that, right. So as you can see, that's a pretty fucking serious build there. Excuse my language, but these are beefy old coils that I've made. I'm quite proud of them actually. Only been making these collectors for a little while, and I'm quite pleased with these ones. They should come out quite nicely. Just going to pop the cap on, make sure that there's nothing obstructing. That doesn't feel right. Okay, we might have to just push this in one side here. It feels like it's hanging over the edge, maybe a touch. The trouble is, you see, we've got this. You've got this inner sleeve to the barrel as well, and I think that's just, yeah, it's just catching those. So screwdriver in the way. Right, let's just shifty this in a little bit. The great thing about this is that literally you can just loosen off these screw heads, and if it isn't fitting quite right, you just push it together. It really is that easy. It's just a case of just like snugging it forward a little bit. That'll do you. Make sure we're not making any sort of contact with the leads of the other coil. Make sure that's all situated nicely. And again, making sure that it's all nice and tightly. And I've gone for the smaller bloody Phillips head. Anyway, right, let's try that again now, see if that'll fit on better. Yeah, that fits on fine. Okay, so what I'll do is, now we've got the build in place, you've seen what it looks like. I'm going to fiddle about with those coils, get them glowing up nicely and situated properly. And then once I've done that, I'll wick it all up, and then we'll see you up top for a vape and final few words on this. See you in a bit. Welcome back. Sorry about the vape, it's going mental in here. Okay, so we've got that build that we just did in the Goon now. Came out at 0.17 of an ohm. I've got it running on the Sigelli 150 watt at 100 watts, 4.1 volts, and as you can see, producing quite a bit of vapour. Now let's have a little chat about this. The build deck is definitely very unusual. I think it's pretty cool. I like the fact that it's the plates, it makes very good connection, very easy to build on in my opinion. As you saw, you can just sort of like undo those screws, just jig about with your coils, screw them back down again. There's no major issues at all. I even at one after I actually sort of played around with it a little bit more off camera and actually took the coils out, snipped a couple of mil off the end of each of the leads, just so that I could get them that bit closer to the middle of the deck there. And yeah, no problems at all. Just slot them in, slot them out. If you have got fancy coils that you want to keep and you want to reuse, you can take coils out of this thing and put them back in, no problem at all. Because of the plates, you don't get any kind of snapping or cutting of the wires on your build. So that is a huge advantage in my opinion. Okay, so let's do some pros and cons on this thing. As always, we'll start with the cons. Cons are the screw on the bottom of the dripper is that holds the negative post in place, has a tendency to back out a little bit. So if you're going to be using this dripper, you need to make sure that that's nicely tight and snug in there. There's a couple of little very small black O-rings in there that sort of help the screw to grip, and they tend to get a bit squidged. So, use a technical term, they tend to sort of like, if you over tighten it, they pop over the head of the screw. I think they could have done with being a little bit thicker and a little bit beefier, but there we are. Then the airflow is very smooth, very good. I have it running fully open, especially with coils this size, because the temperature coming from these things is quite ridiculous. It's not the quietest though. It depends. I've noticed the bigger the build, the noisier it gets. So the closer those coils are to the airflow holes, you seem to get a little bit more of a whistling noise. I have gone for the biggest coils that I've ever done in this time around, so they are quite noisy. Let me think. What else is there? The gaps in between the posts are quite and the sort of side wall of the build deck are quite narrow. I think some people may be concerned by that, but so long as you make sure that your posts are nicely in place and nicely firmly sort of screwed in before you start building, and make sure afterwards that they haven't slackened off any, just for peace of mind, so that those posts don't turn and cause any kind of a short. But it is something to sort of consider. It's a 24mm RDA, which, as you can see, it fits nice and flush and fine on the Sigelli 150 watt TC. It fits fine on my castigator, fits fine on the tugboat, Tug Life unregulated box that I've got. But obviously, if you've got a 22mm tube mod, it's going to look silly. You're going to get an overhang on either side, but that's just the nature of the beast. There's a lot more 24mm RDAs kicking about these days. The Kennedy and various others, and the main advantage of that obviously is the build deck. So, I mean, it's not really a con, but it may be a con to some people if you haven't got something that this will fit on. But as I say, it fits on this, no problem at all. Obviously it fits on the Rulu RX200, no problem at all. Most box mods it's going to be fine, but obviously if you're going to stick it on a tube mod, make sure your tube mod is sort of 24mm or bigger, so that it doesn't look like a baby's rattle. Pros, well, personally, I think this is an absolutely gorgeous looking RDA. The way that the top cap is sort of scalloped at the top, it's got this sort of nice little swooping insert to it. The fact that the airflow works so easily and so readily without being loose or sloppy. The drip tips are perfect size and diameter for my personal taste. The engraving is amazing, really nice, deep engraving. Blue Eyed Goon's logo on the front of on the sort of barrel there, the sort of Illuminati looking thing, is a really nice design in my opinion. It's not overly fussy. It's brilliantly made. It's very good quality. It doesn't. I've not been able to find out anywhere what grade of stainless steel this is, but It's pretty. I mean, it's pretty high quality in my opinion. From what I've seen of it, it does. It's nicely brushed, and it feels like 316, probably 314. But it's gorgeous. Really well machined. Everything about it is really very well made. It's nice and sturdy. It does give exceptionally good flavour and good vapour. And I personally think that for the money, it's just a cracking RDA. If you're a builder, if you're somebody who likes to build your Claptons and all your aliens and all these weird and wonderful fancy coils. I mean, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination a builder, but I do like a nice fused Clapton. I've started making them myself now, and I'm getting quite into it. And they're just a joy to put in here. I mean, you saw in the up close, it was just real piece of cake, just popping them in there. There was no major hassles at all with the build in this, and you can even, as I said, just loosen those screws off and jig about with your coils as well, and then screw it back down again, and there's really no issues. You can really access your build very easily. So I think with everything, with that being said, I'll just have another vape. It's just a really nice, well made, good flavour, good airflow. Dependent on your build, you're obviously you're going to get clouds. Yeah, I can't say much wrong with it other than those few little sort of niggles that we came up with at the beginning there. It is a little bit more on the pricey end of things, but I do think you get what you pay for with this RDA. It's very well made. It's not gonna fall apart on you. Everything about it is just very well made. I wish that those O-rings that help secure the negative bridge post were a little bit tougher and perhaps a little bit beefier, a little bit thicker. Which would have made it a lot easier to sort of tighten down in the first place, and it probably would have stayed tightened down a lot longer. It is vitally important. If you get one of these, it is vitally important that you keep making sure that both your positive and your negatives are nice and tight in there, and they're not going to spin on you, because there isn't a lot of room between the two bridge posts at all. So definitely worth keeping an eye out on that if you're interested in this particular RDA. Overall, definitely a massive 2 thumbs up on this one. I love it to bits. I love the presentation, the little velvet bag. There's spares, not a huge amount, but at least there is a good full set of O-rings, and there's the screws. I'd have perhaps liked to have seen a couple of spare bridge plates popped in there as well, just for completeness. But on the whole, it's a really good dripper, and it's becoming fast becoming one of my favourites alongside the Velocity. So I think we'll call it a day there before I keep on sort of rambling on about how much I love this thing. If you've liked the video, please take the time and press like for me. That would help me out a great deal. If you want to see more of my videos, then by all means subscribe, and we'll be bringing you some more stuff in the near future, hopefully. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.